Hey, good morning and welcome to my kitchen. It is January, which is hard to believe that we have went through Thanksgiving, we have went through Christmas, and has everybody survived Christmas? I was just telling Ashley, I have cleaned and cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. I don't know how we get so messy and dirty during the holidays, but it seems like we do. And I had so much Christmas up, and I love the decorations, but then taking them down is another story. And I have literally said the whole time I have been taking down Christmas, I've been telling Mike and my girls, I'm not doing this next year. I am not doing this next year. And they're saying, you hadn't even got over this year. And I said, I know, and I will. It's just, whoo, it's a job. And then I looked up, and I have Christmas bows still up on these lights. Those Christmas bows may be there till next year. That'll be one less thing I have to worry about putting back up because they'll already be there. Anyway, so welcome to January. We have gotten into some cold weather. I have been a little shocked. We've had some snow out of the blue. Wake up and there's snow. And then I think this weekend we're getting into some really frigid cold air. Do I like winter? No. There is nothing I want about cold air. It makes me cold, it makes me cranky, but one thing it does make me is hungry. So with that, I am going to give you a recipe that will be comfort for our souls. Maybe it'll make me feel better about this cold weather. That's going to be hard to do because I'm ready to open the pool, I'm ready to get the sunshine, I'm ready for the beach, I'm ready for anything. But it's not going to be that way this weekend. It is going to be cold. So let's get busy and let's make this. I am going to call this spicy cornbread casserole. And it also reminds me of my grandma's jalapeno cornbread. She had a homemade recipe. And I wish I dug it out because it's written on a little piece of cardboard and it's in her handwriting and it's just precious. It really is to me. It's one of my treasures. And but it was homemade Mexican cornbread. And so this is very similar to that. And it's also similar to a recipe that I ate at one of our church, I think it was our church Thanksgiving potluck dinner, and the Fisher family had brought it, and it kind of inspired this also. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. And with that combination, let's just hope mine turns out as good as both of theirs has always been. So we're going to give it a try. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, and this is going to just be a dump and stir and bake casserole. So it should be really easy. I always say if I can do it, anybody can do it. I am not I'm just the average cook that has to feed the family. I used to have to feed the family. Now it's just me and I feed my dogs more than I feed Mike and I, it seems like. But anyway, so here we go. We're going to start this. We're going to start this recipe. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Jiffy cornbread mix, and this is always made with Jiffy. Now let's ask a question: who likes sweet cornbread and who likes regular cornbread? Now Jiffy is a sweet cornbread, and that's what is always recommended for this recipe. I probably would tell you you could use a regular cornbread mix as long as the 8.5 ounce would be fine. But all of the recipes that I see for this particular rendition of this casserole is always Jiffy. Now Jiffy is sweet. I always fix the sweet cornbread because that's what Mike and the girls liked when I cooked when they were all at home and growing up, and that's what Mike liked. I guess that's what his mom cooked. So I always did the Jiffy and did the sweet. But now I really do prefer just a good old fresh homemade cornbread that doesn't have so much quite sweet in it. I always tease them that, sweet cornbread, go ahead and put your butter and syrup on it. Just eat it for breakfast. It gets so sweet. Or put some icing on it. But anyway, for this, you are going to want to dump just that 8.5 ounce box of Jiffy Sweet. Let me find a spatula and a whisk. Let me get a few things over here. I didn't get everything over here today. And this is kind of clumpy, when you pour it out. So I'm just going to kind of you know, separate those clumps out a little bit, and it'll break up. As the more we mix up, it's going to break up anyway, and we're going to add a lot to this. So next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add, which way do I want to go? I am going to add my eggs, and I'm going to add 2 eggs, and I always crack these in another little bowl before I put them into what I'm cooking, simply because I have broke shells. Let's go ahead and add that one because that one looks good. I can make a mess, so it's just better if I just crack mine like that. And especially if you're baking, you want to crack your eggs separately, in that way make sure you don't get anything in there that doesn't belong in there. And so there are those, and then the next thing I'm going to add is a can of cream corn. This is just good old sweet cream corn. It doesn't have to be a certain brand. It doesn't have to be whatever brand you have in the cabinet, that's what you need to use, but it does need to be the cream style. So you want 1 can of cream style corn, and I am just going to put that in here, just like that. Like I told you, this is going to be a dump and go. And then I am going to put a can of just whole kernel. Now, I have also drained this, so there's no liquid in this can. It came with liquid, but I drained it before we started the film. So this is just, there it goes. That's just a whole can of whole kernel corn. And this is a 15 1/4 ounce. It's just your regular can size. It's not that small can. It's just your regular can size. So I'm going to put that in there. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I am going to put about half a can of these chopped green chilies in there. Now, if you don't like green chilies, you do not have to use these. These are just something that my grandma always used these in her jalapeno cornbread, her Mexican cornbread. And then she also used fresh jalapenos in her Mexican cornbread also. I did not go as far as putting the fresh jalapenos in this, but oh my goodness, you definitely could. Or you could use a jarred jalapeno, the sliced pickled or sweetened, whatever you want to. You could use any type of jalapeno pepper if you wanted to spice this up even just a little bit more. Again, we don't eat a lot of really hot spicy stuff, so I'm going to leave that out, but I would tell you it would be delicious if you wanted to add that. All right, so and then also I am going to add a cup of sour cream, and if I'm thinking right, this 8-ounce carton should be a cup, so I'm just going to stir that up a little bit. I just took the little foil packet off, or the little foil cover off. So I'm going to stir that up, and I'm just going to add that in there just like that. Scrape all of that goodness out of there. All right, and then I'm going to bobble that around and get it all over me too. All right, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and stir this up just a little bit because we got a lot going on in here. You set that over there. And I've got my trusty batter bowl back out. I just love this batter bowl. It makes cooking, it keeps it in there, and it has the spout that you can just pour, especially if you're doing pancakes or waffles or anything like that, cake batter, anything like that. This really is, and I told you before, my dad had picked me up this, and he gave me 2 sizes. I've got this one, then I've got a smaller one, but this one is just my absolute favorite. I will tell you this, it's heavy. So along with all of the ingredients I've got in this is going to be a heavy bowl when we get ready to pour it. Now you can see this has really just stirred up so easily, and I've got some more of that cornbread mix in there. So I am going to just keep at kind of, go down, get that spatula underneath there and get it all the way to the bottom so that you can pull up any unmixed of that cornbread mixture, of that powder. So there we go. I've got that all mixed in. So the next thing I'm going to add, I'm going to wait on my butter last. I've got shredded cheese, and our last ingredient will be our hot link well, I'm not going to do hot link. I am going to do the queso dog. So we are going to cut up a few of the queso dogs, and we're going to put those in there. Now the queso dog is our hatch chili with jalapeno
pepper jack cheese.
With pepper jack cheese. All right. So we have made these before, and they went over so well. I think you can find them in our meat market all the time now. So if you haven't tried them and you like a little bit of spice, they're not extremely spicy, but if you like a little bit of a kick, I would advise, and like cheese, which I very much do, try these. Now you could also use our mild. You could use just the regular hatch chili. You could use the hot, and you could use the jalapeno cheddar. All of those would be wonderful choices in this casserole. It is completely just up to your preference, whatever you would like. It would just be totally up to you. If you don't want anything too hot, go with a mild. If you want to spice it up even more, go with a hot. But any of these would be perfect options for this particular casserole. And this also, putting the protein in there just bumps this up. You could actually just use this for a meal in itself. I would see this, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to add with this in just a few minutes after we get this in the oven. If you want to make if you're having a big family get together, you could double this. There's just so many options with this. But let me get finished with this. I'm getting sidetracked here. So I'm going to cut open this package of the queso dog without cutting my fingers, which I do that. I don't know if it's why getting older. I've always been gawky and a little bit uncoordinated, but I seem to get more so the older I get. The more I can cut myself, I can stumble. Mike is always getting on to me when I'm climbing ladders, which I did a lot, because I can fall on them, I can fall off of them, I can fall into them. All right, so I just cut the end off of that. Now I'm going to slice these not really, really thick. I don't know, what would you call that? 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch? And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna slice those like that because these are gonna cook in. Now remember, these are fully cooked, so we don't really need to cook them or warm them up. We're just going to add them in because they're going to cook for 30 or 40 minutes in this casserole anyway. But ooh, these just look really, really delicious. So we're going to slice these up. And like I said, these look to be about 1/4 of an inch. I'm not really good at guessing on that, but I'd say 1/4 of an inch. That's what I'm going to go with. We're going to slice these up and make sure I don't get the end of my finger. And we're going to add these. I'm going to do 2 because I think that'll be plenty. And you could honestly do as many or any amount that you wanted, depending on how, if you were going to use this for a meal only, you could really, bump up the lengths in this, and it would just be hearty and filling and all of that. It would just be oh so good. I could see serving this as a meal itself, maybe with a bowl of black-eyed peas, a bowl of brown beans, pinto beans, whatever. Just so many ways that you could enjoy this. I think it has endless possibilities. You could probably even serve it with some roasted vegetables if you wanted to go that avenue. This is definitely not a low-calorie, carb-friendly. Oh, it's carb-friendly. It's got lots of carbs that are friendly, but it's definitely not a diet. It's a comfort food. So, just however you would want to enjoy it would be up to you. But I could see absolutely with a big old pot of brown beans and big old bowl of this, big old scoop of this, maybe some chow chow. I'm gonna make myself hungry, and I'm waving around this knife, so Ashley better dodge that too. I try to be careful. All right, so I have cut up 2, and I am going to add these, and I'm just going to add those in there just like that. And I think even I'm going to be surprised at how that 2 does look like a lot. But again, that is a big old bowl of mixture too. I think we'll stop at that. And then I am going to add 1.5 cups of grated cheese. Now, I grated my cheese, and I've told and said multiple times, if you have the ability and you're putting your cheese in a baked item or melting it, please grate your own. It just works better. The pre-shredded cheese has a coating on it, so it won't stick together and clump, but that also kind of keeps it from melting and blending too. So keep that. If that's all you have, by all means use it. But I would say if you have the, if it's available, you know, use the regular cheese and shred it yourself. Now you can use any cheese in this also. I just picked up what we had at the meat market at Mountain View, and I've just got good old American block cheese. Oh my gosh, this stuff is the best. And I just cut a chunk off the end, and I grated it and didn't get a finger or a fingernail. I've done that before too. And so I'm just putting about 1.5 cups in there, and I think that will be plenty. You can add more, but if you add if you're not careful, you add too much, it'll kind of affect the texture of it. You could use pepper jack, you could use Colby jack, you could use any cheese that you wanted. But like I said, I just used what we had at the meat market available, and I just put that there. So there is that. All that is put in, and then the last thing I'm going to do, I am going to stir in 1/2 stick of melted butter. Now I melted this butter. Excuse me, I melted this butter, and I went ahead and it cooled just a little bit while we were waiting with the other ingredients. It's still fine. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to stir that in. I am also, now I'm going to make this in one of my cast iron skillets. I'm a huge fan of cast iron skillets. So this is a 10-inch cast iron skillet, and I think that will be big enough. I may be dumping that out and put in a bigger one, but I think this one will be big enough, and that's what I'm going to cook it in. I also have a little bit of, probably about 1.5 tablespoons pat of butter here, and I'm going to turn this on and go ahead and melt this. When I bake in my cast iron skillets, I like to have those hot. I don't like to put my batter in there cold. Anytime I make cornbread or anything in my cast iron skillet, I always heat it up and melt my butter. Some people use shortening. I always like this butter. Who doesn't like butter? And so I'm just gonna melt this little bit of butter. I might not need this whole pat of butter, but I just want to get my skillet good and coated, so it won't stick. And then also, like I said, just have it to heat up with. So let me turn that down just a tad, and then we'll go ahead and we're just going to finish stirring this up. Let me tell you, this batter really looks dynamite. I just think this is going to be so good, so delicious. And like I said, it would be a meal in itself, or you can add any side that you wanted, or make this a side. A lot of people, I think, in the South, this is popular for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, just things like that. So it could be a side, or it could be the main course, just however you want to do it. But I hope that you do try it, either way, however you use it. All right, so I have got this, and this is already sizzling over here. The butter sizzling. That pan is hot. It doesn't take long for cast iron to heat up. So I'm going to let that heat for just a second, and then I think I am really looking at the amount of batter I have compared to my skillet. So I'm hoping this will all go in there. Now I am going to leave my skillet going for just a few minutes. There's my big old skillet, but I think this was not enough for it. Oh, this is really bubbling. Guys, this looks really, really fantastic. You know, I'm going to stick with this. I may be wishing that I had changed it over. Now, if you can see, I've still got my fire going, and I am going to let that go just another second or so, and that just helps that crust that bottom. It'll just help kind of crisp that up, because I always like it that way with my cornbread. So I think that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, I did preheat my oven to 350 degrees before I started mixing my cornbread together. So that's why we're going to start at 350 degrees, and we're going to probably cook it for about 35 minutes. I'm going to put this in the oven, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, I'm back. I got the cornbread casserole in the oven. I'm still iffy about that pan size. I'll just watch it. If it starts bubbling or it looks like it might spill over a little bit, I'll just put some foil underneath it. But I think it'll be good. And I think you need it. You don't want it thin, because you want when we scoop into it, and we'll scoop it, it's not going to be a cut piece. You'll scoop into it. So we want it to have some thickness to it. So we'll hope for the best, and I can always clean my oven later. That's my story. So we'll just all see together, folks, how that turns out. All right, so what I am going to plan for my dinner menu tonight is the cornbread casserole, and then I also am going to show you what I like to do, and I'm going to have some pulled pork. Now, I love to make, I am not this person who uses a smoker. I would love to be, and I have my green egg, and I really do enjoy that. I use that more so for pizzas than I do for smoking anything. So I use my crock pot for my pulled pork, and this is the easiest recipe, and my family loves it. Now, it makes a lot, so it's a great one to have if you're having the family over, or for after church. If you want to put something in the crock pot, do that the night before, because it'll take a little while. Or if we're planning ahead to Super Bowl or anything like this, you could just lay this out on the bar or your island, or a table, and they could just leave it in your crock pot, and they can come and use it in 101 ways. Now, like I said, we just use it as pulled pork and put it on a sandwich. You could put it on a baked potato, but I am going to put mine side by side on this cornbread casserole. So I think it's going to make a dynamite duo. All right, so I just brought over some cushion meat. I use cushion meat for my pulled pork. It's just smaller pieces. The pork butts are huge, and if I used a boneless pork butt, I could probably, it may fit in there, but more likely I'd have to cut it a little bit, and me and knives just are better not. So I really do like the cushion meat. It just makes really, really good pulled pork, and you can get this at the meat market. So if you just want to make cushion meat in a crock pot, come by and get you some of this. Now I'm going to open up this package, and I'm just going to pull that that packaging up a little bit so you can see. And carefully, very carefully, I'm just going to cut into that and break that seal, and you can see that. And all right, so this cushion meat comes in, this has 4 pieces, and so the whole thing weighs, let me see what this weighed. The whole thing weighed about 7.5 pounds. So this weighs what? Less than 2 pounds per piece would be that. All right, so I'm just going to empty that out like that. Try not to make too much. I got my rag here, so let me just stick this in the sink. Wash my hands off just a tad. All right, and now, Gus, you cannot have this. Nope, you can't. Gussie here, he's smelling. He knows that Kayla is cooking, and they're just little scrappers. If there anything, no, get in. If anything falls on the floor, I don't have to sweep the floor. My dogs are going to clean it up. So Gus is really, really hoping. All right, so I'm going to break this apart, and you can see just like that, and it just comes apart. Like I said, they are pre-cut and just like that. The only thing, now if I was going to feed the whole crew, I would put all 4 pieces in this crock pot, and it's doable. Hello, Gus. It's doable, and it will take a little bit longer for it to cook too, so keep that in mind. I'm going to put a couple in here for tonight, so and I'll have some to give away to any of the girls if anybody wants any. Now, the only thing that I do with this is that I will season it with just good old Head Country dry rub. If you have another dry rub that you prefer, or if you have a homemade dry rub, you can look up on, Google dry barbecue rub and use all the herbs, fresh herbs at home. You're welcome to do that, but I just happen to have the Sunny's. I've got Sunny's rub. I just happen to have that, and I am going to use it. So, and that's what I do. I use whatever I have handy, and it usually, like I said, I can use Sunny's or I can use Head Country. Those are the two that we go back and forth with. So I get that open, and it's just the shaker side, and I'm just going to start putting that, just rub it in there, just shake and rub. And the cushion meat is just, it's wet anyway from its own juices, so I don't need to rub the meat with mustard or anything so that the rub will attach to it and stay with it. It's wet enough that it's going to do it on its own. So you can be as liberal as you want, and I am pretty liberal on that. Like I said, you can just see, and it's kind of just soaking in there because the meat has been in its own juices. So I think there is one piece, and I'm just going to set that in my crock pot. And then I'm going to do the second piece. And this rub really smells good. And I think, let's get this side. Just shake that up a little bit. All right, we have just about got that coated. And I'm just going to kind of pat that around where that has fell off in the pan. And it's good to use this on a sheet pan or a cutting board or something. That way you don't make so much of a mess. All right, so that looks perfect. And I'm just going to put that in there too. Let me go, and I'm just going to put these, I'll wrap it in a saran wrap, and then I'll put it in a baggie, a freezer baggie, and then I can have these for the next time. Like I said, I'm not going to fix all of them this go around, but I will just freeze those and use those the next time that we need some cushion meat. And they freeze back fine, so don't be hesitant to do that. All right, let me wash my hands because they do have some sticky barbecue on them. All right, I'm back from washing my hands, and they were sticky. And got my 2 pieces of cushion meat. Like I said, that's probably, these are the bigger pieces, so they probably weigh 2 pounds a piece. So that's 4 pounds of meat. That'll go a long way. These are very lean. You're not going to have any waste. Very, very little waste. Very little fat on those. So you're going to get the maximum of meat that is. Now I've rubbed them down with my Sunny's barbecue rub. And like I said, again, you can use any rub that you want. That's what I had. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to pour some good old Dr. Pepper. People, what would we do without this stuff? It's like liquid gold, or it is in my house. So I'm going to open that. You know, I have to hide a can. I told Ashley, I don't think I even have a can. I buy it and I drink it. My grandkids drink it. This stuff disappears as quick as I bring it. But I found a bottle that I had hid back. Good, lucky me. Now I am just going to pour this in there. Now you know that Dr. Pepper fizzes too, so when you start pouring, all right, and I poured about half, maybe a little bit more than a 12-ounce bottle. So I would say 8 ounces. Those little mini cans, I think they may be 8 ounce, and that would be the perfect size. Now, if I had put all of this in there, I would have used the whole bottle if it would have fit, and it probably would have. So, like I said, kind of your discretion. That's just going to be your juices, adding to the juices of the barbecue and the juices from the meat and stuff. Now, you could also, if you wanted to, you could put in sliced onions on the bottom and then put your meat on top of that, your that would just be a extra benefit and extra flavor. And then you could use those sliced onions on your sandwiches, and that would be wonderful too. So there's, you know, just different ways you can add your own touch, add your own spin to this. But I just really do it simply. It's just cushion meat, some barbecue rub, some spice rub, and then some Dr. Pepper, and that is it. And I promise you, it makes a really, really delicious pulled pork. Now, this is going to cook. Let me turn it on, and I'm going to, if I can figure out how to work my crock pot, I am going to turn it on. I'm gonna let it cook 6 hours, and that'll take it off. It's almost 11. That'll take it off right about 5 o'clock, and it'll just go on warm. And ooh, when I walk in the house after work, it's gonna smell so good. So I'm going to, I'm just going to put my lid on good and turn that on, and then that's going to cook, like I said, till about 5 o'clock this evening. Now, when I get ready to fix this for supper tonight, for dinner tonight, I will just shred that. There will be juices in there, and you can take it out and shred it, and it will shred. It's going to shred with forks. If it's not forked, I'm really having a hard time saying what I need to say today, aren't I? If you can't shred it easily, let it cook a little bit longer. But after 6 hours with just those two pieces, it should be perfect. And just shred it in those juices. You can add barbecue sauce in there if you want. You can pour out some of that juice if you don't want so much of it. Just really make it to what you like and to your preference. And the more you make it, the more you find out what you like and how you like it. And I love a good sauce. I'm that person that likes sauces, so I'll add some barbecue sauce to ours tonight too. Hi, I'm back in the kitchen. So it's the evening, got off work, survived the work, you know, all that fun stuff. And I came home, checked the pulled pork, checked my cushion meat, and it was ready. So I took a picture, and Ashley can put it on the website, of what it looked like in the crock pot, and it was bubbling and looked really, really good. So I took it out, and I've got it here, and I was just gonna shred it and show you how it's shredded. And it literally, folks, I mean, it is just falling apart. So you can see how it's shredding just so easily. I've had it out a few minutes, but my forks are just going after it. You know, I've seen people do a lot of different ways of shredding their pulled pork. I've seen them use mixers. They've used their KitchenAid mixer. I've seen them use almost like a drill, and they put a bit on it and go to town. But I don't have that much pork to worry about. So I'm just gonna shred mine like this. Just do it with a couple of forks. And honestly, I could have done it, left it in the crock pot, and did it with the juices. There was quite a bit of juice in there. Remember, we used the good old Dr. Pepper, and did that. So I did have a little bit of just fat and stuff that came off the meat, just a tiny bit in there. So I did pour that out, and I strained it. So when I add any juice back, it'll be minus any of the little fat pieces and stuff like that. Now remember, I told you with cushion meat, you really don't have any fat. There's a few pieces on this, not a lot. I'm really not going to go through it and be too picky with it. You know, whoever eats it, if they don't want any fat, they can go through and pick it out. But does that, look at that, folks, does that not look delicious? And it smells good. I wish we had smell factor in our videos. So far, we do not. So you'll just have to imagine how good it smells. And when I walked in, my house smelled good. It smelled like I was ready to eat. And trust me, I am always ready to eat. All right, so I am going to leave that at that. You could shred it more depending on how, what kind of texture you like. I sometimes leave big chunks. Now, we're gonna eat this, remember, with our spicy cornbread casserole. But this would be dynamite on a baked potato. If you wanted to really load up a baked potato, if you wanted to put it on a bun, make a big hoagie sandwich or a barbecue sandwich, you know, put some barbecue sauce and toast that bun up. I always say, go the extra mile and toast that bun. It's so much better. I like my buns toasted, that's all I'm gonna say. We're gonna get off there and go forward. Anyway, I'm gonna put this back in the crock pot, and my crock pot's empty because I told you I did strain that juice. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of that juice back to it. Let me get all this in there. And you know, I think we had started out with about 4 pounds of cushion meat. And folks, we've got 4 pounds. It looks like more than 4 pounds back. That cushion meat cooks so well. And this crock pot really is half full. You can feed a lot of people. So if you have a crowd or a party, a birthday party, a church event, whatever, you can really, really utilize pulled pork to feed, you know, feed a crowd. So I've got this, and it just really looks good. Now I'm going to add in, let me get that off the fork. I'm going to add in, just so this will not dry out, I'm going to add in a little bit of the natural juices that we use, and Dr. Pepper. Folks, what would we do without Dr. Pepper? At least what would Kayla do without Dr. Pepper? So I'm just pouring that in, and this will help keep this pulled pork really, really moist. All right, and that just soaks right in there. And that probably was just about a half a cup. It really wasn't that much, but enough to keep that really, really moist. And I will probably keep this juice separate and keep it in the fridge. And if I need it to, when I heat this up, to eat it as leftovers or send it to one of the girls, then they can add this and it'll be good to keep moisture too. Or you can just add more barbecue sauce. Remember, I love sauce too. I love Dr. Pepper and I love sauces, so I think that's why I like food. I like to dress them up, you know, like hot fudge on ice cream. Who does not like that? I don't want plain vanilla, I want the hot fudge on it. And that's another cooking show. So I am going to pour this. I have to use both hands on that. And I won't put a whole bunch, you know, because you can always add sauce once you have put it on your plate. But this really does just help give extra added flavor. You know, we're fans of Head Country barbecue sauce, but you can, there are multiple and many kinds of barbecue sauce. Some of you all may make your own. I actually don't, but if you do, hey, that would be wonderful on this too. But just barbecue sauce of your choice, and just put enough on there. You can see it's just really coating that well, and does that not look scrumptious? Just look at that, folks. How about that? So I'm gonna stop there, and like I said, when I plate this up, I can always add barbecue sauce. Now, let me put this over here. If you'll remember, we made that spicy cornbread casserole with our queso dog, and I'm going to pull that out of the oven. I did that earlier in the day, and then I left it in the oven after it finished cooking. I turned it off, but left it in the oven, so it got a little bit brown on top, but it also took a little bit longer to finish cooking than I thought it would too. I really had that in there thick. I probably could have used a little bit of a bigger pan, but it did finish. So we're gonna pull that out of the oven. I also had added just a little bit of extra cheese on top. And so that's kind of got a little bit darker brown too. Let me pop that oven door. And so here we are. Now remember, this has cornbread and corn and our queso dog. It's got some chilies in it, and it should really, really just be wonderful. So I'm gonna plate this with our pulled pork so you can see how I'm gonna eat tonight. So I am actually just gonna kind of dig right in. Oh my goodness, folks, look at that. Does that just not look delicious? Oh, and here is a slice of the queso dog. I put, if we'll remember, I put 2 of them in the batter. You could actually put as many as you wanted. If you were just going to use this as your full meal, you could have added quite a few. So there we go, that is that. And then you could put the pulled pork on top. I'm going to put it actually beside it. Just like that. And yes, folks, I like a full plate because I'm a good eater. All right, now you can add some pickles with that, some sliced onions. You can add just whatever condiment or other relish that you like. And folks, there you go. There is our pulled pork and there is our spicy corn casserole. I hope you enjoy.